Everyone's heard that POTS makes your heart race, but nobody talks about how it feels to live in a body that reacts wrong every time you stand up. POTS stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and it's a type of dysautonomia. And there are many different types of dysautonomia, but the one thing that they have in common are that they all affect the autonomic nervous system, which is the part of your nervous system that controls all of the body's involuntary functions. So, just to name a few, because there's a lot: heart rate, breathing, digestion, temperature regulation, your blood pressure, even tear production, and a lot more. So, POTS is a disorder of the autonomic nervous system, so you can have a lot of different symptoms because it affects the whole body. We're going to start off with POTS today because it is the most common form of dysautonomia and the most talked about, but we will go over the others later. One of POTS' most famous characteristics is going to be the increase in heart rate when you are standing up, which is going to lead to a whole bunch of other symptoms. And POTS is a chronic condition and it is often debilitating. People who have it often struggle in their day-to-day lives. They struggle with keeping up with normal routines such as work, housework, taking care of their family, just normal things that other people are able to do become very overwhelming and a great struggle for many people with POTS. The increase in heart rate is typically due to the fact that the autonomic nervous system is not regulating blood flow like it should be. It's malfunctioning, it's not doing its job properly. So a lot of our blood tends to pool in our legs when we're standing, and our autonomic nervous system is not sending the signal to the blood vessels to constrict to get that blood back up into our chest and brains, which is why we end up having all of the symptoms that we have. And your body recognizes that you don't have enough blood flow to the brain, so it speeds up your heart to try to compensate. Now, there are a ton of different symptoms that you can have, but I'm gonna talk about the top 10 symptoms of POTS, the most common ones. Brain fog is really common, palpitations, having your heart race, tachycardia. Difficulty standing for long periods of time is really common. Most POTS patients will tell you that when they're standing up, they have a strong urge to go sit back down. Body temperature regulation is typically not working properly. A lot of us struggle with heat intolerance. We get overheated really easily. I know I do. Summertime is horrific for me, and I live in Louisiana, so yeah, it's pretty brutal. And also, a lot of us struggle with cold temperatures as well because we just don't do well with cooling the body off or heating it up. Lightheadedness and pre-syncope is really common. So pre-syncope is the feeling you get right before you would pass out, but you don't pass out. So such as vision changes, feeling dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, kind of feeling out of it, feeling weak. Those are really common. A lot of people, when they think of POTS, they think, oh, that's a passing out disorder. But actually, most POTS patients don't pass out. I believe only 30% around there actually pass out. And in 17 years, I only full on passed out twice. Now, I've come close to passing out many, many times. I deal with pre-syncope very often, but full on passed out only twice for me. Now, some people with POTS do pass out often, but it's just not as common. Difficulty shopping or doing household chores is really common. Most of us are going to tell you that, there's been times that we've been in a store and we've had to sit on the floor because we feel like we're going to faint. So we do struggle with the overstimulation of being in a store, the fluorescent lights. Our bodies are already struggling just to stand up, and then you add all of that extra stimulation and it'll just throw us into a flare a lot of times. Short-term memory loss and trouble finding words is really common. Like, I'm actually struggling right now. I do much better when I lay down. I actually have more blood flow to my brain, but I notice that when I'm upright or if I'm standing and I'm trying to have a conversation with someone, I'll go blank a lot, or I'll forget what I'm saying, and I'll just feel fuzzy and like the words don't want to come out. That's pretty common also. Feeling faint or weak when it's hot is really, really, really common. Heat intolerance is a really big one with POTS. Our autonomic nervous systems just cannot properly cool our bodies, and we tend to get lots of episodes of tachycardia when it's hot. And the last one is migraines and headaches. Those are really, really common. I know, especially in the summer months, I get headaches really easily. And if I'm out in the heat having episodes of tachycardia throughout the day, I will absolutely have a headache. That's almost guaranteed. Some people deal with headaches more than others, but it's very common with POTS. To meet the diagnostic criteria for POTS, you have to have a sustained heart rate increase of 30 beats per minute for adults and 40 beats per minute for teens. No sustained decrease in blood pressure, because that would be a sign of orthostatic hypotension. People with POTS, their blood pressure, it may drop a little. Let's just say your systolic was 120, and then when you're standing up it's like 115. Okay, well, that's fine as long as it's not going from 120 to like 90 or 100. Then that would be more of a signal of orthostatic hypotension, which I will talk about in a later episode. Many people with POTS will see no big change in their blood pressure when they're standing, and some people will actually see a pretty significant increase in their blood pressure. And you also need to have symptoms of orthostatic intolerance, which means when you are in a sitting or standing position, you're having symptoms come on, such as feeling nauseous, feeling weak, your heart racing, feeling faint, feeling dizzy. And these symptoms have to be present for 6 months or more. And to meet criteria, you also need to rule out other possible causes or conditions, such as anemia or thyroid conditions or vitamin deficiencies and things of that nature. You want to make sure the structure of the heart is normal and healthy. You need to have those things ruled out as well in order to get your POTS diagnosis. Another thing I wanted to talk about was that POTS is starting to get a little more awareness now because of COVID. There has been a huge surge in POTS cases since COVID has happened. So there's a lot of people who developed long COVID who also ended up developing POTS. I also wanted to add that gastrointestinal problems are really common with POTS. A lot of people deal with slow digestion, nausea, feeling weak and exhausted after they eat a meal, bloating. So all of that is really common with POTS also. And another thing to keep in mind is that POTS is pretty much a symptom of something else going on in the body. In most cases, once you get a POTS diagnosis, you can start exploring other coexisting conditions, because typically POTS is caused by something else going on in the body, such as mast cell activation syndrome or small fiber neuropathy, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, autoimmune conditions, just to name a few. There's a lot. That's something else I'll be going over in upcoming videos, is the coexisting conditions, but it's very common to find out later down the road that you also have some of these other conditions as well. Most patients with POTS will tell you that they feel better when they are sitting or laid down. And with POTS, you're gonna notice a huge increase in your symptoms when you're standing up. So you might not feel the best still when you're laying down, especially if you have a more severe case of POTS. But you're definitely going to notice the difference from when you're laying down to when you're standing up. That's when a lot of your symptoms are going to start flaring. So if a doctor is trying to brush you off and say, oh, it's just anxiety, that's why you feel panicky and lightheaded and dizzy when you stand up, and that's why your heart's racing, No, it's going to be a clear difference from when you are laying down to standing up. You're going to notice the increase in heart rate. You're going to notice feeling super out of breath and weak, and that's not anxiety. So always trust yourself. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself because you know your body better than anyone else. And keep in mind that symptoms can fluctuate. This is huge because there might be one day where you won't meet the criteria for POTS. You'll have a better day and you notice you're able to do a little more physically. And then the next day you can barely get out the bed, just sitting up. Your heart's racing, and when you stand up, you're feeling weak and out of breath. And so symptoms can definitely fluctuate. It's not a condition where every single time you stand up, you're having a ton of symptoms. It's going to be happening often for most of us, but it does fluctuate. You are going to have better days. You might have a few good hours. It fluctuates, and there's lots of different things that can trigger symptoms, which we'll go over in the future. But just keep in mind that it's very common for symptoms to come and go, fluctuate, and you're definitely going to start noticing patterns. You're going to start noticing what triggers these symptoms, such as, oh, I ate a big meal and now my heart is racing. Or you're going to notice every time the weather changes, you're getting more symptoms than normal. Or you're going to notice when you're in a store and you're dealing with all these lights and sounds that you're getting more symptoms. Or if you're sick with a cold, you might notice an increase in symptoms. So you're definitely going to start noticing your triggers. So no, you're not crazy. It's not anxiety. It's your autonomic nervous system malfunctioning and not working properly. And that's what POTS is. It's a disorder of the autonomic nervous system. So that's going to be it for this video. So go ahead and subscribe, because in my next video, I'm going to talk about why doctors misdiagnose POTS. Why does this happen so often, and what do patients need to know?